Hey, what's going on everyone? MONADO Max here, and today we are here with a video on the Switch 2, and obviously we're going to be discussing the next big leak on the Switch 2. I'm joking. I'm not like all those other YouTubers, don't worry. No, if we're talking about the Switch 2 when it's not been officially announced yet, we're doing something creative. And I actually think we have a pretty creative Switch 2 video. I asked y'all on both YouTube and Twitter about ideas of what you guys wanted the Switch 2 to be. This can be anywhere from a hardware perspective, game perspective, anything when it came to the Switch 2. I wanted to hear y'all's thoughts on the Switch 2. And I kind of thought this would be fun to make a video like this, kind of being like, hey, Nintendo, let's do this. This is what we want the Switch 2 to be, and let's see how wrong or correct we're going to end up being when we get the initial reveal of that system. There was a lot of comments. I'm not gonna lie, y'all had some pretty good ideas, but I kind of had to keep it short, because last time when I did this video, where the hot takes, for example, I got too many comments and it ended up being a way too long video. So I really had to short it out on what we were talking about today. But every single one of those comments, they had pretty good points, and some of y'all had the same ideas, just said in different ways. Without further ado, let's get into it. Oh wow, I wonder who this person is. It's totally not Editor Coleman here, but anyways, Coleman says, primarily backwards compatibility, but what I want most is methods of customization. It would be cool to have something on par with the PlayStation 4 backgrounds on the next console. Okay, so backwards compatibility, a lot of y'all in the comments want that. I think the Switch 2 should have backwards compatibility. I don't think it makes sense for Nintendo to go away from that, because I'm going to assume the next console will be a hybrid. Nintendo definitely, or at least typically, doesn't go backwards in getting rid of a feature on their console if it was like the main selling point of their console. So I feel like that is something we're going to see. We're going to see the hybrid system still be into play. Are we getting a dock with it? I'm not sure. Is it going to be like a streaming it to the TV if you don't want to play it on a dock or something? I don't know. I feel like Nintendo is going to incorporate something there where it's not exactly a dock that we're getting. But I do think the cross-hybrid stuff is continuing with the Switch 2. So I would think as long as the system takes cartridges, we're going to see this have backwards compatible into it. I'm going to think that it's going to be very similar to like the DS and 3DS. If you remember how the cartridges of that looks like, their 3DS has that little small edge to it. And I think the Switch 2 cartridges are going to look the same, if not maybe just a little bit different with that little edge piece, similar to how the 3DS had. That's what I'm thinking. That makes the most sense, unless Nintendo wants to really not have backwards compatibility onto the system so they can sell a lot of these first-party games again with a new remastered version. Because we know that the Switch 2 is probably going to be a more powerful console, and maybe Nintendo doesn't want to do these free updates on their first-party Switch games to run better without charging for it. We saw PlayStation 5 kind of do that a few times with some of the titles like Last of Us 2, Last of Us 1. We also had it with Ghost of Tsushima, like a director's cut. I don't know, I could see Nintendo maybe trying to do something like that. I don't know. I feel like backwards compatibility is a lock though. In terms of the customization, I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily want themes. I'm gonna be honest. I just don't want the feature saying that we have themes and there's only 2 themes out there. I kind of like what the PlayStation 5's customization is with the themes, which is none. And you have the theme of whatever game you're about to play on your screen. For some people, they might not like that, but I think it was different. Every time you check something out on your PlayStation 5, it was something different every single time. And maybe people like to have that as the permanent home screen, but for me, I thought it was cool hearing the music of the game that I was about to play with the home screen. It looked pretty cool. So I agree and disagree. I see pros and cons to the customization. This one comes from good old Twitter. Street Pass and Play Coins would be awesome. Never felt like there was an incentive for me to take out my Switch on the go. Some more features to emphasize the portability aspect of the Switch would be dope. Now, I do agree with this. With the 3DS, they actually promoted being able to take that thing on the go in terms of its Street Pass capabilities. With the Switch, we didn't get none of that. And I know the Switch at one point was supposed to have Miiverse That was supposed to be something that would continue on past the Wii U and 3DS, and it got scrapped. So part of me wonders if maybe Street Pass was a possibility for the Nintendo Switch, because we obviously saw Street Pass live on because the 3DS lived on a few more years after the Switch. Street Pass is a very big deal and still a very big deal, so I would hope Nintendo would encourage that capability to come back because it has such a strong community. And I think if their next system had that implemented, that would be really cool and unique to see a modern day console with that features. What would they do? Maybe bring up the puzzle challenges, maybe find the Mii challenges that they had back in the day. There's a lot you could do with Street Pass, and I definitely think that should be something that they continue on with the Switch 2. And hopefully they do. All right, Breadinator sent us something. The Nintendo Switch 2 needs achievements, a better online system, something like the Xbox and PlayStation parties, voice chatting games without having to use the Nintendo Switch online app. Wow, so we have a lot to cover up here because Breadinator makes a lot of great points. Let's start off with the first thing, achievements. Nintendo is the only console out there to not have achievements out there. And I think achievements would be pretty cool. There's clearly a market out there where people like to 100% their games when it comes to PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam. I think Nintendo should have had that, and I don't think that was something that was added to the Nintendo Switch Online app, which is kind of weird that they didn't add that. That seemed like to be a feature that would have been utilized on that app. But yeah, there is no achievements on all at this system. And I think Nintendo, when they heard that, they think that they need to give something like money for an achievement, but I think Nintendo has the wrong idea here. I think people would love to see achievements onto the Switch, whether you get points or anything like that. I think that's something that should have been on the Nintendo Switch in the first place. A better online service. Now, I'm going to be completely honest, and this is an extremely hot take. I don't think the Nintendo Switch online service is as bad as people make it out to be. It's still cheaper than any of the services out there with PlayStation and Xbox. And PlayStation and Xbox continues to go up when you pay for those services. Nintendo, you can get $20 a year for the service. And most of the time, people that complain about the online service ultimately does not have good internet. I have seen this firsthand with many people. Now, I'm still saying that it does exist out there, that even when you have good online, you're gonna have bad servers out there. But I feel like a majority of the people complaining do not have good internet, as it's something I have seen firsthand. And I am okay with the pricing of the Nintendo Switch online service. I think $20 a year, and the fact that you have access to NES, Super Nintendo, and even if you go with the expansion pack, I think the value is still there. I think the value of the Nintendo Switch online service is greatly underestimated and I think overhated in my opinion. And I think people hate on it for the wrong reasons. And I'm coming from it from an online standpoint and comparing it to other systems out there. Ultimately, it should be something that's free, but PlayStation and Xbox charge for it, so I guess Nintendo's like, why can't we charge for ours? And something like Xbox and PlayStation parts, I agree, this is something that should have been on the Switch in the first place. I don't know why. And when they made that whole Nintendo Switch online app on your phone, that seems to be something that kind of, in my opinion, takes away what Nintendo was trying to do. I believe the reason why Nintendo doesn't have voice chats, messaging, all that type of stuff within the system is they're trying to keep it away from, you know, the kids using it and talking to, you know, whoever, you know. But I feel like using a phone makes the situation way worse because they have a phone now and they can use a phone to access whatever website, you know. I feel like Nintendo didn't think that one clearly if they were looking at it from a protecting standpoint, and I'm pretty sure that's what they looked at, is from a protecting standpoint. Not to mention the voice chatting. I don't even know why there's not a proper way to do voice chat on the Switch, since there's so many games out there that you kind of need voice chat. And you know, a lot of the times with controllers, you have that headphone jack. And have you guys seen the Splatoon 2 headphone adapter thing that you have to use to do voice chat for Splatoon 2 for the Nintendo Switch and when you're on your phone? It is horrible. Like, this thing looks absolutely horrible. I think it's so obscure and so horrible that it ended up being an extremely expensive Nintendo Switch accessory because of how obscure it was, how you had to plug this up to the phone, the Switch, all that. was horrible. A horrible item. A lot of work needs to be done with that when it comes to the next system, and I would think Nintendo is going to do more with the online service going into the next console, because this will be the first time that, the first time Nintendo had a paid service for online was the Switch, and I think next time their next system is going to be way better with it.
Hey guys, I'm Max's editor. He told me to make one of these commercials telling you to subscribe to his channel. So if you're not already subscribed, I mean, all the power to you, keep it that way. But if you're subscribed, I mean, let's just press that button right there, and then you can press unsubscribe. Yup. And you're good. And if you're a MONADO Marine, which is the biggest ripoff in all of YouTube, I mean, you could go to his little perks membership, go here, cancel membership. Yeah, there you go. It actually ends on my birthday. What do you know? Wow, what a great birthday present. Yeah, so that's all you really have to do. Make sure to do that. Yeah, back to the video. Have fun, guys. Just kidding, guys. Gotta press that button. Make sure to ring that notification bell. Join the MONADO Marines. Please put the gun down.
Alright, keep a similar UI as the Switch. While scenes and customizations are really cool, with how small the memory for Switch menu takes, I would much rather have an instant playing experience where I can hop in a game less than 5 seconds than cool screen layouts. This is kind of how I am too. I don't necessarily think we need the themes or anything like that. I think the Switch, even though it's probably the worst UI out there for a Nintendo console, I'll always say that the Wii U UI is amazing, but with the Wii U UI, it was so bad in terms of loading a game because of how great the UI system, how much was on the screen, how the environment of that, very cool UI system, but you had to sacrifice game loading screens. And if you notice with the Switch, when you're loading into a game, you're loaded in pretty fast most of the time because of how basic the system is. I personally think I would like Nintendo to keep with that, and I think that's part of the reason why we haven't seen much customization options added into the Switch, because that has part to do with why games take, it would take a process of making the games load faster or a little slower. You know, the Wii U had so many complaints at one point because games were taking so long to load. It took months for Nintendo, I actually think it took years for Nintendo to implement a feature where you had the quick start menu on the Wii U, so where it would load the game faster, where you don't have to open up the UI. I think there's a reason for everything Nintendo does, and I'm like 95% sure that's why the Switch has no customization. Gosh, I'd like to see one screen that is foldable that will make it into 2 screens for dual screen functionality like the Wii U and DS online games. Okay, that's a thought. I still don't think I want that, because that reminds me a little bit too much of the 3DS and DS, and I feel like if we got 2 foldable screens, they would have to make the system a lot smaller screen to make it portable. It sounds cool, but I feel like there are some things that could go wrong with that. A 5G network option for online anywhere. I actually love this option. There's only one handheld out there that had this capability, and unfortunately it wasn't utilized because it was not a popular system, that being the PlayStation Vita. You were able to add this to your cellular plan and have data onto the system. That was such a cool thing that I'm surprised no one else tried to do. And I'm actually looking at the Switch now, I'm surprised they didn't try to utilize that. I think it would be really cool if the Switch 2 has that feature. But unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be a thing, because I think people saw it, and I just don't think it was talked about enough because it was the PlayStation Vita. Unfortunately, it's an underrated system for most, but didn't sell well. 4K docked and 1080p undocked. I hope 4K is something that the next Nintendo console has. I'm going to think it will, considering Nintendo usually takes forever to have that type of stuff added to their system. It's been so long that 4K has been a normal thing. I think we're finally due for a 4K Nintendo console. In terms of the 1080p undocked system, I'm going to say no to that. While I would love a 1080p screen when it comes to playing these games handheld, that is going to literally kill the battery. Like, I'm telling you that the Switch 2, if it had a 1080p screen, we will be lucky to have 1 hour of playtime on that system, unless Nintendo wants to charge us like $800 for the system because they put a good battery and a good screen on it. That's why a lot of these handhelds that have 1080p are so expensive because they have to incorporate a good battery, or at least a somewhat good battery, because even then it still isn't the greatest. Augment reality implemented into games. Okay, you know, I think we saw a little bit of this in the 3DS and Switch, if I'm thinking of the correct things. Like, wouldn't Mario Kart Home Circuit be considered that? Maybe I'm wrong. And then a touchscreen gamepad on screen for Joy-Con-less play. Personally, I don't think I would care too much about the last part due to the fact that I've not had an issue with that really, but I don't know. Maybe that would be a good feature to have depending on the type of games that we're getting on the Switch too. A messaging system between friends and being able to look up usernames rather than using number codes. Okay, messaging system, yes. In terms of the friend codes, I think I'm going to say yes and no. I'm 50-50 on it. The only reason why I like the friend codes is it does make it difficult to find your profile compared to the usernames out there. Now, for most people that would not be an issue, but it could be an issue for certain people if you have a certain username and people are constantly sending you friend requests, and could make it difficult to find the person that you're accepting the friend request for if you had usernames. So I see pros and cons to both. I think I'm okay with friend codes coming back. That's gonna be a hot take. But the messaging thing, that should definitely be something. But like I said before, I think Nintendo's idea of not having messaging is because they don't want, you know, the kids that have the Switch to have that capability. So I don't feel like messaging will be an option on Switch 2. I think voice chats will be an option. I don't know, we'll see. We will see. All right, we got another one. I just want a much better UI and graphics. Hopefully this next console won't be that close to a Switch or Wii U. I'm not very picky though. And another 3D Mario game because 3D World and Bowser's Fury just ain't doing it, right, Max? Max, isn't that game mid? Right, Max? So if y'all don't know, this comment is supposed to be a diss at me because I actually think that Super Mario 3D World is the best 3D Mario game out there. Gonna be a hot take, but I think that game is incredible. Now, we do need another new 3D Mario game, so Gummy Lad 2 is correct here. We've already talked about the UI and graphics, so it's the same way. I mean, I would love an amazing UI. I would love the next system to have the Wii U UI. But at the same time, I'm looking at it from a standpoint of these games are going to take a lot longer to load if we have something like that, because it's clear Nintendo struggles when it comes to UI and game loading screens. It should have a corded phone attached to the back so you can dial a number that links you directly to Reggie's office so I can talk to him about my love life and how it's going nowhere. Wow. Well, I don't think Reggie would be quite happy to hear that since he's no longer with Nintendo, so he probably wants to move on. I think he's already moved on to another company. He was GameStop, and then he like quickly left that. Interesting. A comfortable controller and no Joy-Cons. So the Joy-Cons, I have a love and hate relationship with. I think the Joy-Con is probably one of Nintendo's worst controllers ever made out there when it comes to Nintendo themselves. But at the same time, I love the customization of the Joy-Con. It has added a lot of crazy ideas out there in terms of customizing your Switch and being able to make your own custom Joy-Cons. I haven't seen a system so customizable before, and I feel like the Joy-Cons really opened that door. I also love the idea how Joy-Cons can be two controllers for people. So I'm like yes and no on it, because I want my Joy-Cons to still be used onto the next system. I just hope that this next system has better Joy-Cons in terms of the Joy-Con drift, because that was a big problem into the Nintendo Switch. So maybe more like advanced Joy-Cons that are not, you know, the drift is non-existent, and having it where your old Joy-Cons will still work and it not be like a big change if you had a new Joy-Con for the Switch 2, basically. In terms of a controller for the system, I think that the Pro Controller is one of Nintendo's best controllers out there when it comes to a Nintendo console. The Switch Pro Controller was a really good controller. So I don't think I really want to see that change. I hope, again, this is something we can just bring over to the next system. Let's not make it too difficult, Nintendo, but knowing Nintendo, they probably want to change something so they can charge people for more Pro controllers. Okay, the last one, a longer battery life, more special editions, and backwards compatible. I agree with the longer battery life. I think that is what we need with the system. Now, interestingly enough, I also want more special editions. I feel like with the Switch, we didn't start getting really cool special editions till about 3 years into the system. And I think that in the Switch 2, we need to see a special edition console within the first year of the system, and we didn't see that. I want to see more of that early into the system rather than later, because I just felt it was not a good business move on them. Although maybe that was their plan, to have more people buy Switches. That way you would get the base model first, and then a year or two later you'll see this and be like, ooh, you need another Switch. There's probably a strategy behind it, but for me, I was annoyed by it because I feel like there was a lot of things that you could have done, like a Breath of the Wild Switch. That should have happened. I don't care who you are, but a Breath of the Wild Switch should have happened. Blue Joy-Cons, blue Nintendo Switch docks, something like that. That should have happened. The battery life is something that we need too, though, because I think the Switch has gotten better with its battery life when we got like the OLED and the version 2 Switch. But I hope that the battery is good on the Switch 2. I feel like it's not going to be as great as the OLED battery onto that system. They're probably going to release another version with the better battery life. On top of that, I also want OLED at launch, but I know Nintendo's probably not gonna do that. They're gonna have an OLED system come out probably 2 or 3 years after the Switch 2 is initially released. I would like all that at launch, but I know Nintendo's not gonna do that. And backwards compatibility, we obviously want to see that. I just hope if we get that, we also have a way to take our games that we bought digitally easily added to the Switch 2. I would think it's going to be easy because I believe Nintendo's already confirmed that the Nintendo Network ID is going to transfer over to the next system, so that should make it where our downloads should be very easy to just sign in and boom, we just have our previous purchases right there ready to be downloaded. Guys, y'all crushed this post, so I greatly appreciate you. If we didn't get to your comment, I'm sorry. It is kind of difficult to do these type of videos because there's so many good comments out there, but so much short time that we have out there where we can't get everything. Maybe we'll do this again for some other topic. I hope y'all enjoyed this because I feel good about doing a Switch 2 video that isn't covering an obviously fake leak. We're getting close to the Switch 2 being revealed, and I can't wait for that system to be revealed because it's gonna be fun to make videos for, and when the system actually gets here, it's just going to be incredible. 2025 is going to be the year of Nintendo for most people, and I cannot wait. I have been talking for way too much. Make sure to backslash that subscribe button, like the video, check out the Twitter, check out the Discord server, check out the Instagram, become a MONADO Marine for $5 a month, and then check out the description with all the cool links below. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.